Hey everybody, I'm Deborah Richmond from the Quilted Turtle, and today we're going to be looking at the quilt behind me. We're going to be looking at big stitch quilting. This is a quilt that I've done recently and finished with big stitch quilting. It's fast, it's easy, it's inexpensive, and I want to show it to you, show you how to do it to see if there's maybe a way you can start incorporating big stitch into your projects. So let's get started. So let's take a closer look at the quilt. So this is a very geometric quilt. It is a log cabin, and because it is so geometric, I wanted to put some lines on there that was going to give it a different, to be curved and give it a softer look. And it also gives your eye two different places to rest, first on the geometric, and then as you come in closer and you see the wavy lines of the quilting, just gives it a little more interest. I did use pearl cotton for this. You can also use embroidery floss. You can use 3-ply or 4-ply. The pearl cotton is a number 8. I find that works the best. You can try a number 5 if you have some pearl cotton at home and you want to use it up. It just depends on your fabrics and how close the weave is, so that if it's a tighter weave, you're going to need a smaller thread. So just give it a try. But 8 works with everything I've tried so far. What I did, we're going to talk about marking. We're going to talk about how to start a thread and how to stop a thread, so that you'll have really all the basics you need to know to try this on some of your own projects. So the concept for the quilting was very, very simple. All I've done is I have drawn lines on there that are wavy. And I started with a few and I added them until I just felt like there were enough. It was really just whatever you like to put on it. You see here is another one. Sometimes the lines crossed, sometimes they did not. There really wasn't any rules, just wanted some nice wavy lines. I'll show you the back of the quilt. You don't really see quite as much of the stitching on this one. I've used a small print on the back, and so that hides some of the stitches. That is a tip that I have for your backings when you choose them. If you kind of want to hide your stitches, use a print, and the larger the better. If you want your stitches to show, then you go ahead and use a solid, and so you've got a lot of different variation as far as what you would like to see when they flip the quilt over. So here's what we're going to be working with today. I've got 3 different marking pencils to show you. I also have the needles that I use are big stitch needles. This particular brand is by Pepper Corey, and you can get all of these on our website. I also use a Valdani pearl cotton at the number 8. This one is variegated. Variegated is fun because as you sew and quilt through, you get some variation in lights and darks. So play with different types of colors as well. So let's start with talking about the marking pencils. I have 3 different ones here to show you. I have a lot of different marking utensils. These are 3 I use quite a bit. Now, the first one is from Sewline. There we go. And this is a nice, they call it a ceramic lead marking pencil. And by clicking in the end, you do, that's how you get your lead to come out. It's a very soft, hard enough to hold up, but soft enough to give you a nice line when you draw on it. So we're going to go ahead and put our first line on here, and I am just going to go ahead and draw the swervy line, just like that. So you can see how easy this one draws with. It's really nice. If you don't want to buy a special pencil, I have used a regular mechanical pencil just like this many a times, and I've had no problem with it washing out. If you are, some people are a little bit leery about using regular leaded pencils, afraid they won't wash out. I always say test a tool first before you start to use it, but very often it's the same idea as you click it. Very often I will pick up one of these if I don't have one of my others near me, and again, works very easy for marking. Now I'm going to show you, I put this together so that it has black on the back so that I can show you what to do on dark fabrics. Okay, this is one that I started using more recently. I absolutely love it. It's called General's Pastel Chalk, and it's a white. They come in different colors. This is the white. I like it because the lead does not crumble. It's hard enough, again, hard enough to hold up so that we can draw with it, but not so soft that it crumbles when we can't sharpen it. So this one just is really nice, and again, you're going to see how very easy this one is to draw with. That's just really important. So that's shows up a nice bright line for you to follow. So if you're using dark fabrics, definitely this type of General's pencil in the lighter colors is the way to go. All right, so for our demonstration today, we have our pieces are basted together. You'll see the little marks in here. I use a Quilt Tech basting gun. You can use whatever type of basting you prefer. Many people will safety pin. Some people will baste with threads. Now, when I'm going to do something that is a long curvy line like this, or anytime it's a long line, I don't use a hoop. I used to use a hoop all the time with my other hand quilting. I'm starting to learn how to go without a hoop because there are times when the hoop is great and there are times when using without a hoop is nice. This is a time when using without a hoop is really nice because you're going to be moving that hoop constantly because this is such a fast stitch. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start this thread. What I like to do is I am going to come out, I'm going to start the thread here, but I'm going to poke my needle in here about almost an inch away, bring it to the stitching line. I'm going to pull that through just so that it comes not all the way through, but that is now underneath, and the tail is right here underneath the fabric. I'm going to give it a back stitch here, and I'm going to come up beyond the stitch, and I'm going to give another back stitch just so you can feel really secure about that starting your thread. I do not use knots. Other people do. I do not use knots because I've had problems with other hand quilting where the knots would pop through to the top once I washed the quilt, and it just didn't look good. So I have always gone with this method. Now, once you've got this anchored in, you're ready to stitch. And stitching is just really very easy. You're just going to stitch along. You're going to be able, because you're not using a hoop, you're going to be able to have your left hand, if you're right-handed, right hand is using the needle, left hand can be manipulating that thread to push it onto the needle. So you can get a lot of different stitches on one insertion. Okay, so now let me tell you a little bit about what you're seeing. You don't have to have really even stitches for big stitch. In fact, it looks better, I think, if they are not. If you find that your stitches are getting real small, remind yourself to go big because that's what gives you a nice look, especially when you're on a quilt top, you have a print, and so you're not seeing these stitches quite as stark. So uneven stitches actually adds to the look. Okay, so let's just do some more. You can use a thimble. I'm not using one today, but if I had one on, I would be putting it probably on my thumb. But for this, with using it without a thimble, it's really nice because it's nice to be able to push that fabric back and forth. Now, if you're working on a large piece, a lot of people have asked me, what do you do when you have to go way to the middle of a piece? What you're going to do is you're going to take your arm, you're going to just bunch your quilt up on it so that you can get to the point in the middle where you are working. It's really, there's no secret really, you just kind of bunch it all up so you're kind of holding it in the crook of your arm, and then you can keep quilting on whatever part you're at. Now with your big stitch quilting, you can use a light contrasting thread. You can use a thread that is the same color as your fabric. It is really, you have a lot of different design choices. But this is just a really nice, easy way to finish a quilt because it's just fast. You don't have to think about it, and before you know it, that quilt is done. When I did the pink one that I showed you a minute ago, I was really surprised how fast it finished. Before I knew it, I was done, and I added a bunch of lines just to make sure I had as many as I wanted. But it's really, this is very forgiving and very easy. Now let me show you how you end a thread. So let's get to the end of this thread. I'm going to go a little fast here again. Big stitches is what it's all about. This is really nice if you're a beginner quilter because it gives you a good idea of how to handle quilts before learning how to do the more traditional stitching. The more traditional stitching is very, very similar to big stitch. It's just much smaller stitches. And I'm still just following my line. Shorten it up. Okay, so let's say I'm to the end of my thread and I want to end it here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to now take this needle and insert it into the fabric just behind that where I came up last time. I could do it, well, let's do it in front. So we're going to finish off our last stitch, and what I'm doing is I am going to weave this needle between these stitches so that it is this thread tail that I'm going to leave is going to be in between, here we go, woven in between these last few stitches. So while you can't see it, you did see what I just did was took that thread and did this with it. That's going to leave it snug enough so that you are not going to have any trouble with it coming out, whether you wash this quilt or not. I've washed a lot of my quilts. The threads, the ends, the tails don't come out. You would just then clip it off right there, and you'd start another thread here using a couple back stitches and starting again. And then just to show you the back, you can see that the same stitches that we put in the front looks pretty much the same on the back, so that you have a nice stitch line on both sides. So I hope you start thinking about big stitch quilting, how you can use it in some of your products. It's great for baby quilts, for small quilts, for charity quilts, for utility quilts. It's great for a lot of different projects. I absolutely love the dimensions that it gives to a quilt. It really adds quite a bit because you're seeing a lot of the threads and the colors. Now, all of the products that we used in this video you can find on our website, The Quilted Turtle, and that is at quiltedturtle.com. Thanks for joining me. And be sure to subscribe to our channel. You can do so here by clicking the subscribe button. That way you'll find out about new videos as they become available.